So I think we stopped that norovirus spreading to our festival that weekend. So I feel like that was a really...
Amazing.
People have asked...
Welcome to another episode of The Diary of an EHO. Today we have with us Hannah Ward, environmental health professional and event safety specialist. Hannah, do you want to start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Hannah Ward. I work for myself running my own company called Forward Thinking EHS. It's a solutions-based environmental health consultancy, yeah, exactly. And I specialise in working at live events and big festivals.
Amazing.
But I also contract to local authorities and have other private clients and work for other consulting auditing firms as well. How I got into environmental health, I mean, I've been thinking about this today, and it was a bit like This Is Your Life, and I'm about to give you a run through This Is Your Life because it's not so straightforward. So as a kid, when I was between 9 and 14, I think I've looked up the years where today, I loved Life of Grime, like every other EHO that you've spoken to. It didn't make me want to be an EHO. I didn't know an EHO was a job. But I loved Life of Grime, and I loved it because John Peel narrated it. And John Peel, a massive music industry influence, and as a child, I went to Glastonbury a lot, and I was aware of John Peel. There was the John Peel stage, and he had a big influence on Glastonbury in my childhood, and a Radio 1 DJ and everything else. So I liked Life of Grime because John Peel narrated it. I also didn't mind the rat-infested premises and everything else that went on in it, and dealing with hoarders and stuff. I found it very interesting. Didn't make me want to be an EHO. Didn't think about it. As a teenager, I've always worked in restaurants, hospitality. I was a lifeguard for 4 years. Now that's a big safety profession that had an impact, and it shapes the way I think now, definitely. I worked in restaurants. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I went to uni to do English language because it was my strongest A-level. Actually, before that, I did want to be a pathologist for a little amount of time. So I have always obviously had a strong stomach and been into gory stuff. But I didn't get to do pathology. You need to do a medicine degree. I didn't get the grades to do a medicine degree, so that idea soon went out the window. So I did English language and communication studies at King's College London because it was a big wide open degree and it was my strongest A-level. Off the back of that, I did lots of temp jobs in London and working in offices, in receptions. I was communications assistant, managing inboxes and stuff because that's what went with my degree. I always worked in pubs and restaurants at the same time as studying my degree, A-levels.
You worked in hospitality?
I have had a job since I was 13 years old, and actually as a 16-year-old I had 4 jobs.
Did you?
Yeah. And
studying?
Yeah. Wow. And as through university, I had a job in London, and then I'd have a job that I'd go back to in Yorkshire. My work ethic has driven me to experience so much. So I've always worked in hospitality, and then as a temp job came up, I was working for a temp agency in London, and they'd send me here, there and everywhere, 1 week contracts, day contracts. And this job came up and she rang me and she said, I've got a job, you'll really love it. It's working at a hospitality company head office as the office manager, office assistant. You'll love it. Great. I bit the hand off, wanted to go to the interview. Went to the interview. It wasn't an office assistant job at all. It was like food and operations support. Okay. And it was to support the food development team and the executive chef and the operations team of Wagamama, of an international multi-site company. And I bit their hand off for the job. I took it. The Wagamama then made me permanent, bought me off the agency, whatever happened. She'll know more about that than me. At that point, I feel like the rest is history, because that job was really where I learnt a lot about environmental health, because
you'd be liaising with them, wouldn't you?
Yeah, so I was PA in a way, ops support to 3 or 4 development chefs, an executive chef, and then all the food business, all the restaurants themselves. With the food development team, it was part of my job to manage the specs and design and send out the specs nationally and internationally, translating them into American English for cilantro and snow peas.
And this was before AI?
Yeah. And at that point I could spell. It was fresh out of my English degree and I could still spell. I can't spell anymore. But yeah, so I'd make these food specs, but it was my job to make sure that the right vegetable was cut on the right coloured board and the chicken was cut on the right colour-coded board and adhered with the HACCP. So everything that was written down had to adhere with what the quality assurance and the food safety team had in the HACCP. So I was translating it to chefs. And that, I realised, was my skill of getting chefs to sort of understand and comply with these rules and the hazards and the controls that were in place. But, you know, at what point does an onion, you chop it on a brown board, you peel it, and then if it's going in a salad, actually that onion gets cut on a green board. And they didn't understand that. They were, you know, a chef would put up a fight to that. But I knew what stuff had to be cut on what board, and that's what went out on the spec. So that, and we had monthly, weekly meetings with our primary authority, Westminster, and Food Alert, our food consultants, food and health and safety consultants. And I administrated those meetings. I took the minutes, I organised them, I invited people, I had to organise the hospitality for it. So whilst I wasn't a key professional person involved in it, I had insight to all this stuff. But that still didn't make me want to become an EHO.
Did it not?
Still not even at this point did I know that I wanted to be an EHO. I thought I wanted to be an area manager. So I went...
Within hospitality?
Yeah, and run multi-site operations. You know, at this point I was in operations. Like, operations was my bag. And I then went to do the Wagamama management training. So I went from head office to restaurants, which everybody thought I was crazy, and I think lots of people might see this on LinkedIn, because my LinkedIn is mainly Wagamama family and EHOs and then event people. So there'll be lots of people from Wagamama potentially seeing this. But yeah, so I went back to the restaurants to do my training, do my management training. You do your kitchen training, so you spend 4 or 5 weeks in a kitchen, and you then spend however long doing your front of house training. I was a front of house manager training to be GM. And
was that your first experience of working in the kitchen? Because prior to that, you'd worked in hospitality, I'm guessing.
It was my first proper kitchen training. No, I'd always done both. So the restaurant that I first had a job in, we were waitresses, but we would prepare the starters and desserts. So we would plate them up, and we would be the KP. So we were everything. So we had thinking about that kitchen, all I can think about is the amount of times I fell over in that kitchen and how I should have been told to wear non-slip shoes. That's the flashback I just got then. But we plated the starters, we plated the desserts, and we did some prep. We'd come in early. So we were like a bit of a sous chef. There was one chef and the waitresses, and that was it. And in another hotel, I did kitchen, I did bar, I did chambermaid, I did everything. If you need a kitchen shift, you need a kitchen shift. When I was 17, I was definitely working in a kitchen, because I was working in a kitchen when I cut my finger open here on August bank holiday weekend. My fault, I had the right knife in the wrong hand, actually, because I'm a little bit ambidextrous and those things still don't feel quite wrong to me.
Do you think that was lack of safety training?
Probably, yeah. There was no knife training, no chopping board training at that point, 100%. But for me, what was most important, Gaetano, is I cut my finger open on August bank holiday weekend, and I couldn't work because I had a huge bandage on it, and my friends were all going to Creamfields. So I rang them and said, have you set off yet? No, cool, swing by and get me. I'm going to come, I'll pack a bag, and I bought a ticket outside, and I went to Creamfields, and that's age, 18, I'm going to say.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to say 18. We'll go with 18. So I've always gone to festivals and events, which we will come on to eventually.
So then, when was the moment? What was there a moment or moments that made you think that this is the career for me?
Not long after I left Wagamama restaurants, because I only worked in managing the restaurants for just less than a year. There was an issue that I wasn't happy about in the restaurant I was in, and I left. And then I actually wanted to go away, so I went to Mexico for 2 months.
Oh, nice. As you do.
As I do. And yeah, quit your job and go to Mexico for 2 months. It is always a good thing to do. I'm also a scuba dive instructor, so in all of this, I've done my dive instructor training and my dive
That was from
master.
because you were a swimming instructor as well, so
so that comes with a lot of safety, but this is where, so when I travel, I try and contact a dive shop and say, do you need a dive instructor for a month? Or I'm not really bothered if I dive, but I'm a hospitality professional. Do you need help in your restaurant, your bar, your accommodation, anything?
It's like a working holiday.
A volunteering holiday, because there's no working visas. So volunteering, I will volunteer for bed, board and diving. That's my package, and I'll do whatever work you want me to do as long as I get those things for free. And this one place, I normally email about 50 dive shops. This one place got back to me and said,
in Mexico?
Yeah, we don't, are just on the border of Belize, beautiful little fishing village, no signal. I was there for a month. I lived in a shack. It was fantastic. We don't need help in our dive shop. We've got loads of dive master trainees, no problem. We do need help getting our restaurant ready for high season. So do you want to come and help us? And I redid their menu for them. I helped her clean the kitchen. I taught her about raw and ready to eat cross-contamination, allergies. I taught them cocktail training. And at that point, you know, it was a bit more the consultancy side. That was probably my first ever experience of it. And then I came back and I got a job managing a rooftop bar in London.
Oh, which one?
I'm not going to say. And I'm not sure if it even exists anymore. One time there was a really serious health and safety issue in that the plugs, the electrics kept tripping to the kitchen, and we kept turning them on, and they kept tripping back down again. And the manager, the GM of the whole building, was saying, just carry on, just keep turning them back on. And it's like, it's two things. It's an electrical hazard and a fire hazard, but then also the trips are under the tills and the girls are bashing their heads on the way up. Like, it's a very simple hazard. So I said, look, no, it's happened 5 times now. I'm not happy. I've tried to borrow this piece of equipment from neighbouring sites, from other places. I've rang Argos, I've rang Nisbets. I've tried everything I can to get a grill. It's not going to happen. I'm shutting the kitchen because we can't cook the burgers. No, you're not. Well, yes, I am. And I emailed the area health and safety director and I said, look, I'm just telling you what's happened. And he emailed me back and said, I've got you back, don't worry. And I did it. And, you know, they probably lost £300 in burger sales that night. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't a food-led premises. And I got it in the neck for shutting. And the electrician came and they said it was about 10 minutes away from setting on fire this piece of equipment.
Wow.
And I think that was really the moment that was like, I want to protect workers. I want to protect the hospitality industry. People should not risk their life working. And that was it, really, that nobody is well paid enough to be lining, you know, company CEOs and board members' pockets to risk our own safety. And actually the lack of training that you've identified probably throughout my hospitality career, not all brands at all, like Wagamama had fantastic training. There's just been a couple of instances in 2 hospitality places that I worked at, and I put them together and I thought, I want to go. My passion is training. My passion is getting the right system across and explaining that to people for their own safety. In a way, I'm a bit like, you know, forget the regulations. What's important here is our health and safety and our life preservation. Sure. So, yes, the regulations support that, but really, you can use your common sense to know, are you going to injure yourself or are you not? So, yeah, I worked out that was my passion and that was my driver. I loved training new members of the team. I loved doing, if there was an accident and there was a problem and you had to retrain people in how to actually implement a risk assessment properly in the restaurant. Like, that was what I enjoyed doing. So I then thought, right, I want to inspect restaurants. Even I then did not know that I needed an environmental health degree to go and be an EHO. After all that experience and all that contact with EHOs.
Yeah, because I was going to say, you would have
I had weekly meetings with Westminster EHOs. And I think someone pointed me towards the higher certificate in food control. And I thought about that for a little bit. And then somebody pointed me
Was that with Nescott?
Sorry?
Was that with Nescott, the higher certificate?
I can't remember. They don't do it very many places, do they?
No, they do 2 places.
So finally then I realised I needed to do an MSc in environmental health because I already have a degree. However, the prerequisite for an MSc is a BSc. I've got a BA.
A BA, that's what I was going to say. You need to have a scientific degree.
So I rang up. I made the decision I wanted to go back to Yorkshire at this point, and that was my catalyst to leave London at that point, because I felt if I just went to Middlesex, my kind of life in London would just continue, and I need a clean break when I go and do, like, I went to a different college to do my A-levels. I could have stayed at my school to do them, but I needed to go to a different college to experience that change. So yeah, I was going to Leeds Beckett, and I just remember ringing the course director at the time of Leeds Beckett saying, I've got a BA, I don't have a BSc, what do I need to do? Oh, well, we don't really know. I was like, is there a foundation course in science you need me to do to get on this course? Because I need to know now.
But you also had a lot of transferable skills.
Well, exactly, and so I banged on about this, my diving, I'm part of the RTM for the building in London, so I get involved in housing stuff, Crossrail tunnelled underneath my flat, so I've been involved with noise EHOs, and I've experienced significant noise disruption from Crossrail, so I'm very empathetic to noise complaint, that area of environmental health, and I actually can't work in EP because I find it too emotive. Like, I've been there, and it's and also we'll get onto it in a minute. I do like a party, so I'm either the one causing the noise or I know what it feels like to live with construction noise. But I rang him every day for 2 weeks until he let me on.
Wow.
I said I'd do all sorts. I said I'd do anything, and I just hassled.
Did you have to go for an initial assessment, or?
I don't know whether
But
what
also,
happened was right, but I showed willing, and I showed passion, and I showed commitment.
And those with BScs wouldn't have the same exposure that you had to
that's it. So I had the
professionals.
hospitality side, and I have the other side, and it was just that science, and I was like, look, I can do it, and I'll learn as I go. So so then I went to do my environmental health in MSc in environmental health at Leeds Beckett finally. So that was 2017, 2018. And then I did my EOB. And I mean, people have spoke about finding it difficult to get placements at councils. Again, I just did the same tactic that I did with the dive shops, email 50 and hope one gets back. I emailed all the local authorities across the M62 corridor and north, and Bradford got back to me.
Which was quite relatively local to you.
Yeah, so I was living in Leeds. Bradford said, I'm a student, these are my days off, I can come 1 day a week and shadow and then take it from there. I went in, on all of my days that I wasn't at uni, I went to the council, they gave me a student agreement, I had a laptop, I shadowed and I helped them with service requests.
And you shadowed all sectors within environmental health?
Yeah, it was mainly the food team that was supporting me at that point, and this was completely unpaid and just up to me to go in. And then they soon realised that I was actually doing quite a lot of work and they should probably give me a job. So they upon finishing the degree, I then got a full-time student post, and then it became a trainee when we got our MSc through. And then they supported us through our EOB and going around health and safety, EP. Luckily at Bradford, food, health and safety and EP all kind of sit together, and it's
What about private sector
teams.
housing?
They're in a whole other building, and it's a whole different team. But I mean, I am quite a vocal person. I will hassle people. I will turn up at people's desks. So I don't really take no for an answer, and I will get the experience that I want to get. And I got it, and I spent time in housing, and I made friends with colleagues over there. But, you know, if you're not that sort of an outgoing person, it is difficult.
And also the experience. A lot of people come out with a degree or a master's degree without any relevant experience. They don't have this opportunity to shadow, and they struggle.
Yeah, but my advice would be you just have to go and get it. Everybody is busy.
Yeah.
But if you show willing and you show that you can do a job and learn and put your brain to it, then, you know, someone should take a punt and give you a job.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it happened to me. A student was contacting me. She was doing her higher certificate and she wanted experience because no one would give her experience. So as a contractor, I took her out with me to do some inspections.
Amazing.
And I took her out on some food alert inspections with me. I asked for permission from the people I contract her. I said, look, I know it's a bit unorthodox, but this girl, she's got a background in microbiology. Like, we need her in environmental health. This is exactly what we need.
Yeah.
And through those 5 inspections or 3 inspections that I took her out on, she managed to get a job somewhere.
Fantastic.
And that's all she needed.
Really
so
rewarding.
People just, and like, you know, I've said stay in touch, and she does. So, yeah, I mean, and then in environmental health, so I worked at Bradford, I got my full EOB there and became competent, and then I wasn't planning on leaving. I wasn't not enjoying it, and I really enjoyed it. I love working at Bradford, as we were just talking about before. I genuinely
you
love
mentioned
Bradford.
off camera.
I'll say it on camera. And I loved working in Bradford, and it was excellent training. The training that I got there was second to none. We experienced all different areas of environmental health and different situations. And was just made aware of so much guidance in environmental health that I meet other EHOs that aren't aware of. And also,
do you think it's the way Bradford trains, or it's the individual teams, or
yeah, I think it was just what the manager knew, what we needed to be aware of. And it's also the thing about gold plating in environmental health. So recommendations are recommendations, legal requirements are legal requirements. There are many recommendations of how you can meet illegal requirements. There are many ways to skin a cat. It's not up to us to go, you must have that precise one. And that really frustrates me when I see reports written down. I'm like, well, you can't tell somebody to do that. That's not a legal requirement. That's a recommendation. There are other ways of meeting the legal requirements. And gold plating was something from day one. It was, you can say that, you can't say that, you can say that, no, you can recommend that. No, that's a recommendation. You know, really, I don't know whether I want to say this on camera, actually, you might have to cut this out. But food hygiene level 2 is a recommendation. It is not a legal requirement for food businesses to have food hygiene level 2. It's a legal requirement for them to be adequately trained, commensurate with their activities. Food hygiene level 2 is one way of doing that. You know, and it's the wording.
I'm
so
actually
important.
a bit surprised by that.
The wording is so important. And yes, it's easy to say food hygiene level 2 is a legal requirement. But just because they do that doesn't mean that.
But I think that's a general understanding that it is a legal requirement.
It's pretty much a grey area, and that is the downfall of legislation. We don't have any specific training legislation to back up 852 and its training statement that it has. And these days it's seen as industry best practice, but it's not an approved code of practice. We don't have any approved code of practices in food that makes it law.
No.
So, you know, and that is something that we bang on, that we're not supported by our legislation, and we're not. But what I was just going to say then, so after Bradford, I was enjoying it, I loved it, but jobs came up in Leeds where I was living. There was like 15 jobs advertised in housing in Leeds, and housing was my least preferred area in the degree. I didn't like it. I found it quite depressing, and I didn't like it, but there was 15 jobs 7 minutes from my house, and it was like COVID. No, this was just pre-COVID I applied, and I was like, I might have a better social life if I actually work in the city that I live in. You know, not everybody's driving to work, and because social life in Bradford, everybody's driving in from everywhere. There's no such thing as going for a pint after work without drink driving home, which you're not allowed to do these days. So not that I endorse it at all. But I do not drink drive. Just trying to get that on camera. Yeah.
Just for the record, Hannah does not drink drive and does not endorse it in any way.
Does not endorse it. But 30 years ago in council lifestyles, it sounds like it happened a lot. I think
it may have done.
That's what I was comparing it to. Yeah. It may have done. I wasn't there to live it. No. But anyway, I got this job in Leeds in housing, and I liked it. And I'm one that I'll take on a challenge. You know, it was my least preferred area, but wow, let's do it. At that point, I realised I needed to experience another area of these 5 things that we studied in our degree. Otherwise, I'd lose them. And I'd already done quite a lot of. I'd had contact with EP and health and safety, sitting near them in Bradford. That housing was my least.
Because you said they were in a separate building, right?
So I took it, I worked in housing in Leeds for a year, and then again, I wasn't not enjoying it, wasn't really looking for jobs, but I always look for jobs. And jobs at the port at the City of London came up on a 12-month contract.
That's what, yeah.
And so I applied, I didn't think I'd get it, got an interview, didn't think I'd get it, got the job. I was like, bloody hell, I'm going to have to relocate from
back to London.
Leeds to London now really quickly.
How long were you in housing?
Just a year.
Okay.
And then I was at Port Health, out at Tilbury for a year, Tilbury and London Gateway, part of the City of London. Fantastic experience. Port Health was amazing. There are so many jobs in Port Health at the moment, and if anybody has the flexibility in their life to just take a punt on a 12-month job in Port Health, it will probably get made permanent. And it was an amazing experience. I absolutely loved it, but it was a 12-month contract, and then I went back to Yorkshire after that. And then that's really where I started contracting and working for myself. That is the turning point.
But in terms of your transition, because you wear many hats. You work in local authority, you do consultative work, but also you do food safety events.
Events, yeah.
How did that come about?
So that actually was right at the start of my environmental health career as well. I was at uni, and an email came out via Hayley at Leeds Beckett saying we want a student EHO to come and inspect all the food stalls at British Summertime in Hyde Park.
Oh, wow.
Which actually is wild that they wanted a student to do that, because it's a lot of people and it's a lot of food in a field. And I was like, yes, me. I love events. I've always gone to events. Events have been my hobby. And this is really where I got that job. But, you know, what I emailed him was, I've always gone to events. I've gone to Glastonbury since I was a baby. I'm lucky enough that my parents have taken me to a festival as a baby and up to a teenager. Weirdly, they stopped when I was an adult.
But then you continued.
I started going myself, and I've always gone to Leeds Fest and Benicassim and Outlook in Croatia. And I organised festivals and gigs as a teenager. So at the age of 14, I was putting on a festival in my friend's field and organising bands and gigs in the Memorial Hall and in local venues. Well, the Memorial Halls was really where we did our gigs in Yorkshire. So I've always done this little event organising by myself. And then in my 20s, I organised drum and bass nights in London.
That was my era, drum and bass. Jungle and drum and bass.
No, it's great. I mean, I'm still, and, you know, even now I am in the middle of an event planning. We are planning another event for next year, and I don't really have the time for it, but I'm doing it. Not really, you know, obviously I'm there to look at the safety side of it as well, but I'm there as part of the core promotion and organisational team. So I've always done events and promoted events and organised events, gone to festivals. So then this email comes out saying, do you want to do environmental health at festivals? Yeah. Didn't even know it was a thing. And like since that day I have been so privileged to merge my hobby with my career, and they are both my passion. And like I'm so passionate about both events and environmental health. I don't always consider myself an events professional, but I am. Like I've always worked in events. I haven't studied events, but I've always been involved with them
from a very young age.
So I did that job at British Summertime. I met a couple of people. I then went to work with them, where like a concession management company. I went to work with him on a few events, and I did a bit of working as part trader manager, part EHO. So it was more the operations. It wasn't all health and safety, but I was there to sort of cast an eye and do a little sign-off inspection if necessary, and if any issues arose, so if there was a complaint, I'd investigate it. And then, it just snowballed, really. It was all word of mouth. It's all about who I've met, who I've worked with along the way at events. And that is the events industry. The events industry is word of mouth. Yes, there are these big conferences and stuff. But, A
lot of people, young people, who are potentially looking at careers within environmental health think that they're restricted to working within local government and that working their way up through the career ladder within local government. They're not even aware of these opportunities.
Not at all. I mean, I've made this opportunity myself, and I've chosen to set up my own company and work for myself in environmental health, and that's because I like working for the event itself privately. And for the first 5 years I was taking annual leave, or first 3.5 years I was taking annual leave to go work at 2 or 3 festivals a summer, and I just wasn't getting a holiday, and I love a holiday. So it's really important I get away diving. So I just decided to set up working by myself. But you can work for events, I'm pretty sure the big events companies have their own food safety and health and safety people, but you can also work in councils. Many councils have massive environmental health departments. So Westminster, as an example, they have a team that just go to all the events that happen in Westminster in the summer and inspect. And
I mean, there's many elements as well.
Councils have their own events, doing their own events.
Absolutely,
on their own lands,
because when you're working at events, you're liaising not only with the organisers, the traders, but also safety professionals, environmental health professionals, noise professionals.
So I can get involved with SAG meetings, safety advisory groups, which are something that not all councils, well, most councils do, but they all operate them slightly differently because they're an optional advisory group. But the events, it's just spiraled, and I mainly do food safety at events. Last year I got contacted by Glastonbury to work for Glastonbury, which was probably the best thing that's ever happened in my life.
But you're seeing it from the other side of the fence, but also getting to enjoy Glastonbury.
Yeah. I mean, I had worked at Glastonbury once before. I'd worked on a sweet corn stall.
Okay, a bit different.
So, yeah. And then I got contacted by the head of licensing at Glastonbury to come and be EHO on her team. So it's one of my only non-food gigs, really. And that was amazing. So I've done that for 2 years, and I hope after fallow year I'm coming back. But you just don't know. I mean, that's the thing with this freelance lifestyle now. It's very different to being.
But
in a
your skill set
is
unique, so you know, which is definitely advantageous. But your passion is very apparent.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I have a lot less energy now doing this than when I did 5 years ago. So I'm gonna have to try and plan 2026 a little bit more different and not do 12 back-to-back events.
Because summer's going to is probably your busiest time, right?
Yeah, so kind of May to September I'm out in the fields, here, there and everywhere, zigzagging across the country wherever they take me. And then the rest of the time I contract to a couple of local authorities and do some private work, and I pick up the odd private client, but that isn't really my business model right now. I'll do a little bit of it if it's local or something different. Like I've got a client in London, actually I'm working with a market in London, so it's quite similar to the event side of it. I'm working with a market. And
that's all year round, right?
Yeah, and that came through festivals though.
So you've got extensive experience both within local authority and events. What would you say the major differences are between the two, and also where are your skills transferable?
The major difference between local authority and events is 100% the pace. And the pace of events, you know, the reason why I'm good at it is because I've got that hospitality background where you move fast and stuff moves. Unfortunately, in local authority things don't move that fast, and that's because there's so much going on and you've got to do it right. If you're going to do enforcement, it's got to be done properly. You can't rush it. So yeah, the pace, things move, they change. I think you know, whatever the stress is, however you're feeling, literally the show must go on. You must continue. You might wake up with a stiff neck or you're cold. You've still got to go and do your job. You might dumb it down a little bit, but you can't, unless you're probably literally dying. You don't really have a sick day in a field. No. You've got to be on site.
And also with the businesses there, I'm just thinking now, the businesses you're dealing with in a local authority are there for a long term, unless they're mobile, right?
Yeah.
But whereas these it's a lot of footfall in a short period of time.
Yeah. So from a food point of view, I mean, the difference is that I will inspect up to 20 mobile vendors a day at a festival, and that's a lot. I mean, I'm exhausted. But can you imagine doing 20 inspections?
You're going to do 20 cafes or restaurants, yeah.
And you know, I don't like to do 20. Kind of 10 is good, 12 is alright, 15's kind of pushing it. If we're getting to 20, hopefully a lot of them are low risk and coffee and they're quick. Yeah. But you know, you've got to, I can't just say, so you know, this is where the solutions based bit of forward thinking comes in, because I can't just go, oh, that's wrong. I have to fix it. I have to suggest a solution, say, right, what we're going to do is this, and we're going to make it happen. And I work with that business to make it happen before moving on to the next one. Which probably the same thing could happen.
But in the local authority, you would have more time.
I'd have more time. Yeah. So yeah, the time frame of like this event is opening in 5 hours or 2 hours or hopefully 12 hours is great. 12 hours is loads of time. I then make a call to the site manager or ops manager or trader manager and say, look, these people need some help doing this. My suggestion is X, Y, and Z. I need to move on. I'll be back in an hour to see how you're getting on with it. Can you help them? Or, you know, there's an electrical issue or this. So it's knowing, you know, my people skills come in use so much. And these are people skills that I learned in hospitality. But my people skills in environmental health, you know, have been a saving grace at times anyway when dealing with the public, because you have to take people at face value. When working for the council and you're doing an inspection, you put somebody on the spot and they panic instantly. And you see them doing things and you're like, you wouldn't normally be doing that. I remember this one time on an inspection, this is in local authority inspections, and this guy just picked up this really dirty cloth and just started wiping everything. And I just had to say to him, put the cloth down. Like, you're making it worse. You wouldn't normally do that. Like, he's just panicking thinking he needs to clean. So, and people go, oh, I'm panicking. And I say, I know. Like, this is my job. I do it 5 times a day. I put people on the spot. Just chill. It's fine. You can't change anything now. It'll be okay, and whatever is wrong, we will guide you to fix it. And the same in a field. I get there. Luckily now, I've been doing it for 6 years. 50% of the food vans I come across in a field, I know. They know me. They go, Hannah, what time are you coming? Hannah, can you come in? Can you come and do me first, please? I've got a delivery. I've got to do this. And I have such a good relationship with them. That I can just be like, right, is everything the same as last time? Yeah. Any new staff? No. What about this? What are you doing for that call? Right, I'm going to leave you to it. And I can just do a really quick hazard spot because I know who the good operators are, and I know the ones where I need to focus my attention, or new ones that I've not come across. And also on that risk-based approach, I'm not going to go to them at all. I've seen them 6 times this summer. They don't want to see me, and I don't want to see them, because it's not fair. It's overbearing.
No, and because they'll be travelling around with the festivals.
Yeah. So what I think is a misconception is that these places are not inspected at all. They are inspected every weekend by me or people like me. I know there's a handful of us. When I was about to say there's loads. There's a handful of environmental health officers that work and specialise in events. And I know them all now, and we all know each other. There's also a handful of health and safety professionals that maybe have level 4 food hygiene, that understand and can implement food regs and do food inspections. I still don't think it's quite the same as having the EHO qualification, but it's something.
But they'll be focusing more on the health and safety element.
No, but that's if they've got their food safety level 4 alongside their NEBOSH or something, so they understand the HACCP and everything like that. But quite a lot, it's focused on health and safety stuff. And the nuances of food legislation is what we learn on our environmental health degree. So a lot of it is where applicable, where appropriate. People that don't have an environmental health training in the legislation just go, right, you must have a hand wash basin, you must have a vegetable sink, you must have this sink. It's impossible. You can't have 47 sinks for 40 different things.
And not at a festival.
Not in a fixed premises either. Or a different chopping board for everything. It's not always possible. So it's where possible, where applicable, and that's what we get taught on our environmental health training, is what is appropriate, what is suitable, what can you do in between to make that sink then suitable to go from equipment washing to salad washing, or preferably don't use the sink for salad washing, use a container. There's always a solution, whereas you might find people that don't have environmental health training but have food safety training will go, no, you can't use it. But then what? Then what? They've got to use it. The show must go on and operations must happen. And businesses operate out on district all the time with quite serious non-compliances going on. And I would give them 2 weeks to fix things on a letter, 1 week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks. But I'm expecting them to do it right now, right here in a field, because, it's at that point, it's sort of a contractual obligation. The law doesn't really come into it. I find myself enforcing, because it's not enforcing, but advising and inspecting to best practice, because actually they surpass the legal requirements on a daily basis, because they have to jump through the hoops to get onto these big sites, which I get from a brand point of view, and I get from a public health point of view. We don't want outbreaks happening in a field, but the way they are enforced, these mobile businesses, is totally different to bricks and mortar sites.
Yeah, of course. Even within local authorities, you have mobile caterers.
Yeah. So the one thing, when I first started doing this, and I think it was probably at British Summertime that year, and it was 2018 was my first year there. I remember going, what, you get inspected every weekend? What? That doesn't fit into the code of practice. You should just get done every 2 years. What's all this about? Why are you getting inspected every year? And I've kind of come around to that I understand, because stuff can change from weekend to weekend.
Absolutely.
It's getting picked up, put back down again. You can have a change of staff, you can have staff illness, you're moving around so you pick stuff up. Pests actually aren't an issue in a field. Lots of EHOs always say to me, there must be so many pest issues. Not really. Not come across any, touch wood.
Probably get more in residential or commercial.
Definitely, yeah. And I've had units, a self-propelled vehicle, a van with a food unit in the back of it, blow up on the way to a festival, so they don't have their kitchen anymore. I've had someone with their van doors open and they lost half of their kitchen on the M6.
Wow.
And then they're coming to an event and trying to hodgepodge together a kitchen. That's high risk, and that's where the risk comes in. The risk isn't the food they sell at all.
No.
The risk is purely the operation of picking up and patting down. But so many of them are amazing.
Yeah. So can you describe a typical day at an event, a big event like Glastonbury, for example?
So Glastonbury is different because actually I'm smoke-free compliance officer at Glastonbury.
Oh, are you?
So I actually...
Does that include vapes?
Yes, it does include vapes. And it always has done. Smoke-free legislation included vapes. But, I don't know if that needs to be looked at with the rising popularity of vapes. And I would love somebody to tell me what the difference between a vape and a smoke machine is. If anyone's out there and you want to let me know, please let me know. And then we can go from there. Yeah, sure. So Glastonbury's a little bit different. We'll come back to that. But when I'm inspecting for food, I get to site. So Creamfield. So I get to site. Sometimes I stay over on site. Last summer I hired a camper van. This summer I want to purchase a caravan. I just need to find the time to do it, and then I need to change my car. So I'll stay on site or I'll stay nearby. So I'll get to site for about 8:30. If I'm lucky, I get crew catering and I get a lovely cooked breakfast. So I'll meet in crew catering. Any colleagues that I need to about 8:30, and then I will meet with the trader manager, the concession managers who at Creamfields employ me directly. They bring me as their EHO. I don't work for production. I work for the concession management company.
Amazing.
And someone will tell me, oh yeah, if you go to that trader and they're looking ready, right, we need to get the campsites done first. So generally at events, campsites open first, and campsites are green for doors 5 hours, if not a day, before.
Yeah, I was going to say, usually about a day, isn't it?
So the focus for camping festivals is always let's get the campsite done. And for me, I like to tick off the peripheries first that I won't be able to drive to the rest of the time. Sometimes I get a buggy to drive around in, sometimes I get driven around in a buggy. Sometimes I will drive around in my car. So I'll get all the ones around the outskirts ticked off. If I know the FBO, I'll be ringing them and say like, hey, are you at your unit yet? Can you get to the burger van for me? Brilliant, I'll meet you there in 5 minutes. And so, I just drive around, walk around. A lot of people management, people often, I'm at Booker's, like there's a queue, everyone's at Booker's. Everyone's always at Booker's. And you've just got to manage people. People's family can get ill while we're at events. People's staff can get ill while we're at events. They can be having a major crisis in their life, and I'm there trying to inspect their food van, and they just want to go home. And that happens in any premises. That this is part of our job. We rock up to people's lives and expect their attention to focus on us for the amount of time we say it's going to focus on us for. And that's quite a big thing actually, to like kind of intrude on people. But at a festival, they know it's going to happen. They know I'm coming.
They're expecting it, yeah.
I'll spend between 10 minutes and half an hour with a premises, depending whether I know them and know their operation. If there's any issues, I look at their paperwork.
And with a new premises if you've not worked with before, it's a bit longer.
I would spend a little bit more time saying, talk me through this, what system do you use, how do you manage that? Whereas if I've seen them before and I've spoken to the manager a lot, I'd actually rather go back when they're operating. So this is all pre-event, and my job at events is to do these event sign-offs, which isn't always great because they don't have food out. You're doing it very much, do you have the structure, the means, the provisions and the knowledge to do this job properly? And food businesses know what to tell an EHO, whether I work for them privately or not. But I'm quite good at getting to know these people now, and I've known them for long enough that I can be like, oh yeah, pull the other one, what do you really do? And I've worked in kitchens long enough that I'm like, there's no way you do that, so come on, tell me what you do and we'll try and I'll let you know whether it's all right, or we'll come up with another plan. So I'm quite good at extracting that information out of people at festivals or private, really. So just drive around and inspect, or walk around and inspect food businesses. I used to
And this is, as you mentioned, pre-festival.
Pre-event, so Creamfields, I'm only on site pre-event. I get out of there as soon as it's open these days. I stayed to watch Chase and Status this year and then I left. Drove back to Leeds. Boomtown were there all with pre-event. We're trying to get them open, but what we want to do is get all the campsites done, and then as the event opens we'll be in the bowl, so it's much easier to walk around, and we'll be doing the last few inspections of live event, and we do try and risk any high risk ones we will do first, and any people that are on our radar for whatever reason we will do first, and we try and leave the ones that we know are good, that are there every year, to the end. But again, it's geography at a festival. It's how many steps do you want to do, and I can do 40 to 50,000 steps at a festival easily a day. I think my top one was probably, it must have been at Glastonbury this year. But I mean, also I thought about this today. I mean, what increases my step count at festivals is these days I'm part of a running group called Ravers to Runners, and we do 5Ks at festivals.
Around the peripheries, because it's so crowded.
Across the festival.
How?
Just have a big several mini rigs with lots of drum and bass playing and flags.
Yeah, I mean, I get the motivation, and but it's just
people clear the way for us. So for the last 2 years at Boomtown and Glastonbury, I've done a 5K, and it's actually my friend that runs this group, and we've like reconnected massively over it. And so my normal day on
Ravers to Runners.
My normal day on a Thursday, which is running day, is I will go and inspect 2 premises or 3 premises early. Then I'll meet them for the 9 or 10 a.m. run. And then I'll go back to work dressed in my running kit and not even have time to get changed because I've got to get all these premises done. And my team have let me off for 45 minutes to go and do a run. So that greatly increases my step count at festivals. And actually at Glastonbury, at the run, I got a tap on the shoulder. And I was like, is it? And it was actually an EHO from, I think, is it London Borough of Havering?
Havering, yeah.
Yeah, so I met him. I was working at We Are Festival there.
Was he working there?
No, he was the council EHO, right. And we had a chat, and we sat down and had a meeting. Met him there. I did know he was one of the Glastonbury food EHOs, but I'd not seen him there. And then he was like, "Oh, you're running, I'm running," and like, it's 2 EHOs
so
at festivals running, so I'm not the only one.
Yeah,
but
I power walk.
Yeah,
twice a day.
Yes,
because I have a dog.
It's a lot easier. I'm sporadic with my running, but that meeting actually with those EHOs at Havering is something that's always stuck with me, and something that taught me.
We work closely with Havering. We've actually got some food professionals currently working there.
Oh, great. They, sat down like, "Oh, you're the on-site auditor, fabulous, cool. Any issues? No. If I meet with the local authority, I am as honest with them as I can be. At the end of the day, I do work for the event. But I'm always honest with them, and it's best to be honest because then they trust me to get on with the job. If I lie about something and then they find something different to what I've said, they're not going to trust me and they're going to double up on my job. Whereas if I go, actually, there's a few problems here, but I'm going to do X, Y, and Z and run it past them. That's the way I work. I'm honest. I am an EHO. I do work for the event, but I'm also impartial at the same time. At the end of the day, I'm there.
You're in a professional capacity.
Yeah, I'm there in a professional capacity to protect public health. That was a tongue twister. They sat down with me and they said, "What have you done? Any issues? No, cool. All right, we're going to audit the auditor. 10%. They'll do 10% of my inspections. If what I find is what they find, they're happy and they'll leave." And that is something that I have tried to, and I have been successful in getting other local authorities to do at events. I've been brought in as an in-house EHO to work with the festival because the council have come to the site for the last 10 years to do all of the inspections and kind of wouldn't give them control to do it. And this is one thing I would say to councils is trust your trust events in your area to run their events successfully. Everybody wants a successful event. Don't waste your resources inspecting food businesses that are going to be there for 4 days, not even serving your constituents. If you feel that they need inspecting, tell the event to get an environmental health professional, a competent food safety inspector, and it doesn't have to be environmental health. Competence comes in many shapes and forms. Insist via SAGs or licenses that festivals have food safety professionals working for them. I can't shout it from the rooftops enough. It actually blows my mind that, licenses require noise monitoring. It's standard practice in the health and safety industry that you would have a competent person on site because it comes under CDM regs. Food safety, do what you want. We might come to site, we might not. I have seen.
But your role whilst there is advisory, isn't it?
Yeah, and I plug that gap.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I'm glad that I do. It's advisory, yeah, but not all events have it. And actually, the smaller events, the council don't go to, and they don't have competent professionals either. So it's the smaller events and they will have
But still, you're talking a couple of thousand people still, right?
but potentially more ropey food businesses as well.
Yeah.
I really don't want to badmouth anyone, but
because they're not going to be as diligent.
Yeah, and the professional ones that churn out 500 portions an hour, it's not their first rodeo.
No.
They know what they're doing. They do this for a living and they do it well. The high volume caterers know what they're doing. It's these low volume, someone that's like, oh, I've just bought a bat van and I'm going to go to an event. 1,000 people, doesn't tick the council's risk assessment, so they don't go, doesn't tick anyone's risk assessment, when actually they're the events that does
Even the organisers probably will look at it as an additional unneeded expense.
Cost, yeah, exactly. So it does, I mean, it comes down to cost, but they're the events that I would say to councils to focus your attention on, because they're actually the ones that your local
and there's so many of them
are going to be going to.
Summer, there'll be hundreds every weekend throughout the UK.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I'm part of organising an event actually, I haven't even thought about this in any of my events experience. I'm on the committee of organising a community event in Leeds called Beeston Festival, and I moved into the area in Leeds and I found out there was a festival in my back garden, the park, and I was like, of course I want to be involved. So I got involved from a store management point of view, because that had just started to do all the festival food stuff. And I actually I'm now volunteer manager, and I think I'm also secretary at the moment. It's fun.
You think you are?
Yeah. I do too many things. And the stall management side of it, I spent all my day once. The festival is only 5 hours long. It's a free community event in South Leeds. It's absolutely fantastic. It's free. We fund it on grants, and we're all volunteers that organise it. It's usually Glastonbury weekend, which is really bloody awkward for me. This year it's the last Saturday in June, which I think is the 27th or 28th. I think last Saturday in June. I spent 5 hours trying to keep rice warm for this food vendor, because they brought rice in a cool box to insulate it to keep warm that they'd cooked a mile down the road, and this cool box was cracked, it was minging, it was disgusting, and they were trying to keep rice warm in it.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my god, I borrowed a microwave off one of the stalls next door, I found them a plug in the community centre, and I was like, you're going to have to do a relay, you're going to have to keep heating this rice up because your chafing dishes aren't enough. So I've actually have to almost put my blinkers on at an event like that and not do my job there, I would love the council to come down and support us, but they won't.
Because it's not enough footfall for them to
we think
warrant
over
it.
5,000 people come, but we don't know because it's a free event.
Of course, yeah, because you can't go by ticket
it's not
sales.
ticketed.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's something that I really want to do for that event. We need to do some crowd counting, because I think it affects how we apply for funding and all sorts.
Yeah, of course it does.
Going off topic largely, but I work at events and I can't always do environmental health. At the end of the day, I've got a passion for events, and I'm lucky that the two have crossed over. I mean, you said a day in the normal life at Glastonbury. So Glastonbury is a different gig entirely, because I work on the licensing team and it's not food. And it's a kind of central role for the licensing team to make sure that all the other areas of compliance teams are doing what the licensing team.
So what's your role there? Because you mentioned smoking, right?
Yeah, so to start with, I spend my first 3 days at Glastonbury. So I work there Monday to Sunday. So Monday pre-event up to Sunday of the event. So I'm working for 7 days. Maybe get the Sunday off sometimes. But and the first 2 days I spend visiting off-site campsites in an advisory, non-enforcement role, just checking, because these off-site campsites are actually nothing to do with Glastonbury Festival.
But around people that are pre-planning though, are these people that will be attending the festival?
Yeah, so it's for attendees of the festival, but it's local land.
Yeah, the people
owners or houses that run these on tens, nothing to do with the Glastonbury Festival licence. But if they cause an outbreak, it would.
But then how do you get to find out about the locations?
They have a big relationship. There's a whole off-site team at Glastonbury that work with the locals, residents, villagers, and then these campsites, because lots of them need car passes, lots of them need minibus passes.
Okay, yeah.
some of the... Yeah, there's all sorts of passes that need to go on.
Like park and ride almost.
Yeah, it's like a park and ride. So I work with the off-site campsite manager for a couple of days, casting an eye on the setups and identifying any howlers, because brand-wise, anything would reflect on Glastonbury. You don't know that's not Glastonbury. No. The general public don't. We do at Glastonbury festivals. So I go around and, again, luckily they're all generally really compliant, and there's only a few little things, and it's making sure that they're using proper food traders, and it's not matey boy's mum just having a barbecue feeding 500 people pink burgers. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just, I do 32 campsites in 2 days, so it's a busy couple of days, and that's fantastic, and that was a whole new world to me, but, I'm very proactive, and I will turn my experience to anything, and kind of learn a way to do a job, and, I had 2 days to learn it, and then it was over after I'd done it. That was it. And then the on-site days, I then spend 3 or 4 days on-site, going around the whole of Glastonbury. I'm the only person at Glastonbury that does my job. And I go and visit all of the production officers and the area managers and talk to them about smoke-free, make sure they've got enough signage, enough stickers, because the legal requirement is still to have a sticker in a visual reference at every entrance to every workplace. And making sure that they have them, giving them advice if somewhere should be smoking, shouldn't be smoking, if they need it, on how to implement the smoke-free policy at Glastonbury.
Because there will be, I'm guessing, designated areas that people can smoke.
Yeah, just outside any structures, really.
Yeah.
And it's, vaping as well. And then I do a little bit of auditing, so if somebody is smoking, our security responding, is everybody just smoking? And it's very much just making sure that there is an eye for compliance across the site, really. And I'm lucky I get to spend time with the food team, so I went out on some food inspections this year with the food team to see how they do it. And I spent time with the sanitation team. They inspect every toilet at Glastonbury twice a day, a team of volunteers.
Oh, wow.
And their system and how they do that. So it's very much like, it's a really amazing role, working, talking to and meeting all the other compliance teams that keep Glastonbury ticking, and making sure that from a licensing point of view, they're doing...
What's the total footfall?
Glastonbury, do you know what? I don't even know what the capacity is this year. I can't remember. I won't want to give you my brain's not in the mood for fake numbers right now. I actually don't even know. Isn't it like 200,000 people or something?
Yeah, I think. I would guess it would be around that.
What was the comparison that they were saying this year, that it's bigger than town? God, I should have come with some Glastonbury facts. I haven't. How disappointing. But yeah, mostly my job is inspecting the food vendors. That's the biggest part of it. I do want to get into noise monitoring, so I've just done my certificate of competence.
Because you worked in EP, haven't you?
No, not in a council.
Oh, have you not?
No.
You worked alongside them, sorry, at Bradford.
Yeah, just worked alongside them. I've not had an EP role. And the reason why I haven't had an EP role is because I remember the first time I was in my training, I was listening to a noise complaint through headphones, from a night nurse machine, noise monitoring.
That machine, you mean?
Yeah.
Or sound level meter?
Yeah, so it's from a sound level meter, but it's one that people push on a night, or it's triggered by noise specifically to then record. And I remember listening to it, and all I said was, that's a really good subwoofer, yeah, that's good bass. And they were like, I don't think you can investigate noise complaints. And I've sort of never really thought about EP again, because... Yeah, it was a good subwoofer to get through them walls, so that was good, yeah. But yeah, don't employ me on your EP team, I'll be promoting the party. But I have just done my certificate in environmental noise monitoring.
Acoustics?
At Derby Uni, yeah.
Oh well, congrats.
Because, there's other areas of noise monitoring that aren't neighbourhood complaints, and then there's the whole festival thing.
But also you've got construction noise complaints.
No, but there's also workplace noise. That's something that really is important to me, that I think that people, especially in the events industry, don't protect their hearing enough.
No.
So, yeah, there's all these areas. I'm trying to keep as many strings to my bow as an EHO as possible.
Keeps it exciting, keeps it interesting.
Yeah, it keeps me busy.
But also your skills are very transferable.
Yeah, and I can, if I needed a job in a local authority, which at some point I will do in the next 10 years or something, I will want to go back to just
we can help you there.
Job. You'll find me one. Then, I need to make sure that if all that's available is a job in EP, that I could do it. But yeah, noise monitoring events, summer 2026, I'm hoping I'll be on some teams monitoring noise at events, so that'll be really good.
And always, look, I'm about to offer this, we can cut this out, but if you need anyone to sort of help you carry the noise equipment, then feel free to reach out.
Definitely, I always need a caddy.
Yeah. You found them. Anna, talking about events, is there any advice that you would give to budding EHOs or EHOs working within event safety already, or those that are wanting to?
So I think for budding EHOs, contact events and ask them if they need any support. They will do, and there will be roles out there. If anybody wants to come and shadow me, work with me, give me a shout. I've always got events needing safety professionals.
Would you be
and
happy
environmental health professionals
to share your details?
Yeah, 100%.
Fantastic.
Yeah, people can contact me off the back of this. I think also, just because we're environmental health officers out on district and we know a lot about fixed premises, don't go to site presuming that you know everything about the way a mobile business operates and the way a festival operates. I came in with a lot of event operations experience, which even then, every festival I go to, I learn something. At events, everything has different terminology. What we do with wastewater is different. How you get your electric is different. These food vans have a system. Don't balls in there changing people's operations because you don't quite like it. Like, just stop and think, is it a risk? Because that, at the end of the day, is our job. And do I need to say something here, or can I just let them crack on? One of the biggest things that I actually see working with my mobile food vendors is a lot of them are members of NCAS, the National Catering Association. And NCAS are a fantastic organisation that offer food safety management and risk assessment materials for food businesses. I do a little bit of consultancy for them, but I'm just an advocate for those systems. And actually, this is something that I learned on my training at Bradford. Before I worked in any events, I knew about the NCAS system through my training. There's a system called NCAS Connect that environmental health officers with a local authority email address can sign into and look at food businesses' documents, training, records, if they keep them online, and you can see that before you go to an inspection. So familiarise yourself with the NCAS system is something that I would say. There's some fantastic NCAS training for environmental health officers on LPG gas, because that's a hazard we don't really have out in the district, which we deal with day in, day out at events. And I've done 2 of their 4-hour workshops on it, and I learn something every single time.
Wow.
But what I find is that food businesses that use the NCAS system are told by EHOs, no, you can't use that, you must get Safer Food Better Business or we're going to give you a 1-star rating. And that's a recommendation that you could use Safer Food Better Business. NCAS is a suitable system based on HACCP, as long as they have ticked, well, it is a HACCP system and it's suitable. As long as it's implemented, that's a different issue. That's not NCAS's issue, that's the food business operator's issue. As long as they've ticked all the right processes that they do, so all the processes, delivery, intake, cooking, hot holding, chilling, as long as they've ticked it all, the HACCP will be there for them. And yes, they've got to read it. But they've also got to read Safer Food Better Business, which they don't all do, and they also don't implement it. So I go to businesses and they're like, I've got NCAS, but I've also got SFBB. And I'm like, what? Why? Oh, my EHO told me I had to. And that infuriates me. Like, I get so angry about that because this business is already working really hard. It is expensive out there for food businesses right now. The pitch fees they have to pay to get onto these events, they already pay £300 and something membership to NCAS a year to get these documents and the support that they get from NCAS. And then they have to replicate. And then they're told to go buy Safer Food Better Business for 25 quid as well and fill it in. And how can you implement 2 HACCPs? How can you have 2 HACCP systems? That's like following 2 highway codes at the same time or something. Do you know what I mean? It's let the business make their choice. If you don't like it, you go and educate yourself on what NCAS is and come back and then advise them that actually, yeah, it's all right, I like Safer Food Better Business, but if that's your choice, don't tell them to get 2 things. So I would just say educate yourself and do some training and reading and research into the area of events, because just because you're an expert out there doesn't mean that you're going to be an expert in a field.
No.
And these businesses are used to being told, jump and how high. That is literally their response, because that's what they have to do all day on a festival site.
I mean, keeping it on festivals, if you could take yourself back to when you were starting your career, is there any advice you would give to your younger self?
I mean, it's difficult because my career, I didn't know that I wanted to be an EHO at all, and sometimes I would
But all of your experiences have actually
been environmental health. So, part of me to that wants to go, as a 15-year-old, I wish you knew you wanted to be an EHO, and I wish I'd...
But you wouldn't have had all these other experiences that made you a more rounded environmental health professional.
Exactly, and that's what, my parents say and other people say, is the EHO I am today. I wouldn't be that EHO if I'd done environmental health as my first degree. I wouldn't have my restaurant experience. I wouldn't have that experience of
hospitality, the diving, the swimming.
Yeah.
Instruction.
I might not have even gone to do my diving, so because I might have just been in a career, in a job. So 100%. Not my younger self, because I think I've used absolutely every opportunity to its maximum, and I'm an absolute go-getter.
Very inspiring.
If I've missed something, then I just must have actually been asleep, which is all right. But to other people, I would just say go and get it. Like, nothing's gonna come to you. You have to go
get it.
And get it.
Great attitude.
Any job. Yeah. Most jobs I've got haven't been a job advert. I've emailed a company and said, I would like to work for you. Can I come and work for you? Have you got a job? And they're like, oh, let's get this girl in for a chat, and then they get me a job. And
that's really inspiring, and I think that's what holds a lot of people back, because when they're waiting for that one job advert to come out, there's going to be hundreds of applicants, some with more experience than they do, and then they get very easily dissuaded after 5, 6, 7 rejections. Whereas if you've got the skill set and you've got the passion and you're offering your services even on a voluntary basis initially just to get the experience, that's going to open up so many more opportunities for you further down the line. Yeah,
so if you don't believe in yourself, how is anybody else meant to believe in you? So go and shout it from the rooftops how good you are at doing a job before you have to lose your soul in the rejection process of the recruitment process, which I have to say, I'm so lucky. I've never been in a position where...
You've never had an interview where you've not got the job within environmental health?
The only interview I've ever not got a job for was...
you don't have to say.
No, I applied... This was I think before I did environmental health. It was in London. Just, to be a charity street person.
Okay.
And I didn't get the job, and I was gutted, because it's literally I think the only interview I've never got the job for.
You'd be great at that as well, because it's...
One of them I got, I think, there was 2 charities that I went for, and I got one. And
you didn't get the other one.
And I was like... But I think, I'm lucky, I can talk, you haven't asked me many questions today, I've done it all, as we've said, so I'm lucky to have that skill set, and that comes from working in hospitality and communicating with people.
And you've worked with people at all different levels, across different communities, pretty much your whole life.
Yeah, exactly, so communicating isn't a difficult thing to me.
I mean, sticking on the theme of events, has there been an incident or a potential incident that quick thinking on your part prevented?
So I think it was not necessarily my part, it was my team's part. So at Boomtown, I feel we prevented a really big outbreak from happening, because the medical team, a food handler, went to medical and said they had diarrhoea and they just wanted some Imodium so they could go back to work. And that medical team contacted the health and safety team, who I work for, and they contacted the food safety, and then they contacted me. I was the only EHO sort of on call that day. It was on the Saturday or the Sunday. It was, I think, live had started of the event. I'm sure it had. So I got sent to the food business to say, are you aware so-and-so has diarrhoea? No. What? I was like, well, apparently they've gone to medical and they can't come back to work. You do understand that? They were like, yeah, we didn't know anything about it. And then I find myself doing an ID investigation in a field. Normally I'm ringing people up, asking them about their hand hygiene and stuff. And I'm like, okay, so did she work yesterday? Yeah, what food prep did she do? That, okay, it's probably best to throw that away and start again, and because it was salad prep, so there was no cooking going on. And then, who's she sharing a tent with? Okay, cool, right, yeah, maybe best you exclude them as well for 24 hours. Who's she sharing a towel with? Who's she sharing a toothbrush with? You know, like all these things at festivals that could happen, that I had to suddenly like really think outside the box of how, if she has got a communicable disease, that it would spread in the field. And I was like, you need to monitor your team closely now, because they all, you know, they hang out together week in, week out, they go in vans together, they eat together, they sleep together. It's yeah, it was quite a thinking on the feet thing, but that quick thinking of that paramedic to contact us, and I think, so it turned out there was an outbreak at a festival the weekend before, and this food business had been at that festival the weekend before, so I think we stopped that norovirus spreading to our festival that weekend. So I feel like that was a really amazing. People have asked, one person has asked me this before, and that's the moment that I picked of like a thing that I actually feel I had an impact on an event, and I was able to use my council investigation skills, you know, because we were taught how to investigate communicable diseases.
Excellent, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for let's not even say fact. I'm going to give you an opportunity to share anything with the viewers before we wrap up.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me ask you the question. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us today on the Diary of an EHO. Is there anything else you'd like to? It's been amazing. I've learned so much. Fantastic, and also just getting a glimpse of what goes on behind the scenes at a festival, because most people see it as a festival, food, music, tents, you know, and just basically a full-on 3-4 day party. They don't actually see what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that, and I think our viewers will really enjoy listening to, you know, getting an idea what goes on behind the scene. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share as a final thought with our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to contact me, I mainly use LinkedIn, Hannah Ward, or Instagram, and it's forwardthinking.eho. But from the event side of thing, if you want an insight into events, there's a really good podcast called When Shit Goes Wrong at Events, and it will have environmental health professionals probably like screaming and going wild, but it's really good. And I've actually just listened to one on the way here with a guy called Ollie from Acumen Safety, and he's a health and safety professional at events, so that's a really good episode for people to watch, because he talks about it purely from the safety management point of view, which lots of our environmental health colleagues will be really able to associate with. So
excellent.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been fantastic.
It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks for listening to me ramble on.
No, it's been a real eye-opener. To watch this episode and for future episodes and past episodes, please like, follow and subscribe Buckingham Blueprint Podcast, available across all major platforms.